Okay, now my name's Susie Knight. I'm an ELSIS associate. I've been working in the sector for quite a long time, and I'm particularly passionate about curriculum and teaching and learning. So I hope you're going to enjoy this session, and I hope it will help you. It may raise more questions than it has any answers, but I think that's where we're at this point in FE's interesting history. And our aim here is to explore how governors can strategically engage with teaching and learning and ask the right questions of senior management. Now, in my previous workshop, we were looking at powerful questions, and it was quite interesting. Wave if you were in that session. I've seen a couple of faces, yes. Okay, thank you. One of the interesting things that came up in that session was the degree to which governors have space and opportunity to frame questions to ask. So you might want to think about, do you think that the way that your governing body is organised enables you to be able to collectively frame the kinds of questions that you need to be asking at this point in time? And particularly in relation to teaching and learning, which is going to be critical for the future. Somebody said, I've just realised that actually we spend lots of time being given things and told things, but actually we never get the opportunity to ask anything. That's a really interesting position. So, with that in mind, think about, and you're going to get the opportunity in a little while to look at some questions that you might need to ask in the future. Okay, just a point about these governance materials. This is Module 8 that you've got in front of you of the Governance and Clerks training materials. They can be found on the Excellence Gateway, and it just tells you how to do it there. So you click through governance, leadership and management and into FE governance, and you should be able to find this set of materials. And there are 12 modules there on a variety of topics, and they're all newly designed, newly updated to support and help you. Okay, curriculum. We use this word curriculum all the time, and it indicates and means different things to different people. Sometimes people just they use the word curriculum when they're talking about teaching and learning. The national curriculum, that often refers to that paper that came out that tells everybody what to teach. However, curriculum has a much broader meaning. So it is, in fact, a description of the social and political and philosophical framework that influences teaching and learning. And it's always being manipulated by society and politics in different ways. And we're in that very interesting position where the previous government had a particular angle on it where, everything was very centralised, and we had lots of, national curriculum that came down in all sorts of ways. The standards unit and the standards unit teaching and learning materials and the skills for life strategy and all of those were centrally driven, built on kind of research and practitioner involvement and all those kinds of things. But nonetheless, they were very driven by a top-down approach, and they were driven by funding, as we all know. But now we're in this really interestingly different place, or are we? It'll be time will tell. To redefine that, to redefine what is the curriculum of the organisation you serve. I would give the word curriculum a very much broader definition than teaching and learning. I would say it is absolutely every message that your organisation gives out to its community. David used the example this morning of the learner that came to the college 8 times but never went in. And what would be really interesting to ask, why wouldn't they go in? What was it? What message did that building have that meant they felt they didn't belong, or they shouldn't enter, or it was too scary to go there? And the building, the messages, the prospectus, everything about the building from, well, beyond the gates gives a message, a sort of sub-message of some sort to your community. And some people engage with it, but there are loads of people who don't. So the curriculum is much broader than just what is taught or what is learned. And we've now got an opportunity to redefine that and to reach out into the community and create new teaching and learning that we may never have thought of before, and for which there are no qualifications, because we've been in a situation previously where, you know, if there wasn't a qualification that could be funded, you didn't offer it at all. But now we might be in a situation where you can create new products, completely new, that may or may not carry qualifications. So, interesting days. I'm not going to labour this point because it's been said lots of times this morning already that we've got these new freedoms, the new Act has come into being, and we're now at the drawing board that puts out in front of us. And for once, it's a somewhat blank drawing board. The Articles of Government, at this point in time anyway, say that the governing body is responsible for determining the educational character and mission of the college, and for raising standards and for overseeing its activities. So it is squarely in governors' responsibility to be asking questions about what will that curriculum look like in the future. So how does your college's vision, mission and strategic objectives relate to the current national and local context? You might like to think about that. I was going to ask you to discuss it, but I've actually decided to take that discussion out for the time being, because I think we're going to be short of time. But you might just want to think about that. Think about what your college's current mission is. And is that going to need to change radically, given the context that we're in? Can you just give me raise your hand if you think that your college's mission and strategic position will need to change? You've already done it, okay? Wave to me if you think that's true, because people are saying things. So show me if you think you're going to have to do that. There are also lots of people who think they don't have to do that. Can you say something about why?
I think it's too rigid.
Okay, so somebody here is saying the mission may stay the same, but all the strategic planning will need to change. Any other view?
Well, we developed our mission. We developed our mission with a lot of these things that were coming up in mind last year, and we review it annually as well. And because we've just merged as well, there's been an emphasis on what are, the strategic objectives as well in the transition plan, which is leading into our next plan for the next 3 or 5 years.
Okay, and when you were doing that, were these new ideas and freedoms very much in the mixing bowl at the time?
Well, we'd already decided last year, and as part of moving forward with the merger, that we were going to have a 4-strand focus on where our meeting local and national needs, but primarily it's a local, looking very much at locality as a community. But the college we merged with is in the same borough, so we've now just got one college in the borough.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else want to say anything about their current strategic plan? Somebody over here?
We have recently appointed a new principal, and we have revised our mission. We have published a new statement of strategic intent. We are restructuring the curriculum, the college, everything, to align particularly to regional and local economic priorities, and therefore by implication with the national context. It's been a major is being a major transformational project. We have taken into account as one of the factors influencing our situation the new freedoms, but that hasn't been the driving force. It's been the case for it has been rooted in, been driven by other considerations. But it's certainly moving very much. I mean, I could answer that question for my college with a resounding yes.
Okay, and I'm really heartened to hear that's the case, because I think it is going to be necessary. You know, as people recognise what the future holds, I think they're going to have to realign their strategy significantly. This is a quote from actually the module book that you've got in front of you. Many colleges are already an integral part of the economic and social fabric in which they operate. The current government agenda aims to strengthen this and make colleges more accountable to their local communities. Funding is now determined by provision that meets local needs. That's quite a huge change. I've been involved in a piece of work on behalf of Warwick University in the West Midlands, bringing together colleges, the LEPs, the third sector, work-based learning providers, all sorts of different people, in order to broker, in a sense, those new kinds of relationships that will be required in the future. And it's been quite extraordinary, the differences that we've found when we've brought those people together. Some colleges very linked in with their community and the third sector, and others where they have no connection whatsoever. So there's some real work to be done on working with all those different groups and partners to define the new curriculum of the future. Did you have a question?
I just wanted to add, if I may, that I'm involved with housing associations and NHS Primary Care Trusts. If you change the word college on that statement, the housing associations, NHS Primary Care Trusts,
Yeah.
it's the same agenda.
Absolutely. Absolutely the same agenda. And they all need to be in a room together saying, how can we help you? How can we work together? I was at a meeting last week with a whole series of charities, small charities that do fantastic work with families in the community who are going to the wall because they're no longer going to be funded, but would be really useful to the local college if in fact they were able to embrace them and work, provide them with some support in order to carry on with that sort of work. But the college wasn't there.
Also, you see, they have funding, and their funding with college funding creates a synergy that more than doubles the potential outcomes.
Absolutely. So, you know, that's just one small example of the kinds of new areas that colleges might get into in the future. And just a quote from Ofsted, which was evidence to the Independent Commission, recognising the really important value of these new relationships between local authorities. Local authorities are backing right out of commissioning services, and there is an expectation that colleges could be an enormously valuable in a position to be able to support that local infrastructure in a way that they probably haven't had the opportunity to do before.
Does that mean that Ofsted will take into account local priorities and local situations? Because as I understand it, they work to a national framework.
I don't know, but it's a very good question, because that's going to be quite difficult, because the nature and character of different colleges will be very different in the future, won't they? And so I think that's a really useful question. And when I see some of my Ofsted colleagues, I shall ask them that very question.